It was a crisp autumn morning at Oakwood High School, and Sophia was beyond excited. She had spent weeks planning the perfect birthday surprise with her closest friends, Emma, Olivia, Rachel, and Eva. The plan was to sneak out of the school campus and celebrate at a secluded spot by the river. Sophia had always wanted to celebrate her birthday by the river, and her friends had made it happen. Sophia stood outside her dorm, her eyes scanning the courtyard for any sign of her friends, and a big smile plastered on her face. The sun was shining brightly, casting a warm glow over the entire scene. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees, creating a soothing background noise. "Guys, are you ready?" Sophia asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement, as her friends emerged from the dorm. Emma was carrying a large bag filled with party supplies, and Olivia had a cooler filled with drinks and snacks. Rachel and Eva were carrying a big banner that read, "Happy Birthday Sophia," in bold letters. "Born ready," Emma replied, holding up the bag. Emma was always the life of the party. She had a way of making everyone feel welcome and included. "I've got the cake, the balloons, and the music," Emma said, ticking off each item on her fingers. "I've got everything we need to make this the best birthday party ever." "I've got the drinks and the snacks," Olivia added, holding up the cooler. "We've got soda, chips, and all sorts of goodies," Rachel and Eva chipped in, carrying the big banner and setting it up near the riverbank. The banner fluttered in the gentle breeze, and Sophia felt a surge of excitement and gratitude towards her friends. The girls giggled and set off towards the river, eager to start their adventure. They walked through the dense forest, the sound of the river growing louder with each step. The trees towered above them, casting dappled shadows on the ground. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. As they walked, they chatted excitedly about their plans for the day. Sophia had always wanted to celebrate her birthday by the river, and her friends had made it happen. They talked about school, and boys, and music, and all sorts of things. "I'm so glad we're doing this," Sophia said, turning to her friends with a big smile. "I was so worried that we wouldn't be able to make it happen." "Me too," Emma replied. "It's going to be an epic birthday bash. We are going to have so much fun." The girls continued on their way, unaware of the dangers that lay ahead. Little did they know, their birthday celebration would turn into a nightmare. As they approached the riverbank, the girls gasped in unison. The river sparkled in the sunlight, and the rocks formed a natural amphitheater. The sound of the river rushing over the rocks was almost musical. "Wow, this is amazing!" Olivia exclaimed, gazing out at the water. "I've never seen anything like it." "I know, right?" Sophia replied, smiling. "I've always wanted to come here. It's so beautiful." The girls quickly settled in, spreading out a blanket and unpacking the food. Emma pulled out the cake, a big chocolate masterpiece with candles lit. The cake was shaped like a giant wave, and it looked almost too good to eat. "Happy birthday, Sophia," the girls sang in unison, as Sophia blew out the candles. The celebration had begun, but little did they know, it would soon turn into a fight for survival. As they sat down to eat, a sudden commotion broke out. The girls looked at each other in confusion, wondering what was happening. And then, they saw it. A massive shark, its fins slicing through the water, emerged from the depths of the river. The girls screamed in terror as the shark began to circle around them, its cold, dead eyes fixed on them like a predator sizing up its prey. The water churned and foamed as the shark moved, its powerful tail thrashing back and forth with a deadly precision. Sophia's birthday celebration had turned into a nightmare. "Oh my God, what do we do?" Rachel cried, panic etched on her face. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her voice trembled with each word. "We have to get out of here, now," Emma shouted, grabbing Sophia's arm. But it was too late. The shark had already begun its attack, its jaws open wide as it bore down on them. The shark attacked, dragging Emma into the water. Sophia and her friends were in a state of panic, screaming and crying as they tried to process what was happening. The water was churning and foaming, and Emma's screams were echoing through the air as she was dragged deeper into the river. The shark was relentless, its attacks becoming more ferocious by the minute. Sophia and her friends were fighting for their lives, desperately trying to stay out of the shark's reach. But it seemed like no matter what they did, the shark was always one step ahead. As the reality of the situation sunk in, Sophia realized that she might not make it out alive. Her birthday celebration had turned into a deadly nightmare, and she was trapped in the middle of it. The thought sent a chill down her spine, and she knew she had to think fast if she wanted to survive. The girls were exhausted, their screams hoarse from shouting. Sophia knew they had to think fast if they wanted to survive. They were running out of time, and the shark was getting closer and closer. "Rachel, grab onto that rock," Sophia shouted, pointing to a nearby boulder. Rachel nodded, her eyes wide with fear. She grabbed onto the rock, holding on for dear life as the shark attacked again and again. Sophia followed suit, grabbing onto the rock and holding on tight. The shark's attacks were relentless, but Sophia and Rachel refused to give up. They clung to the rock, their hearts pounding in their chest as they waited for the shark to make its next move. As the minutes ticked by, Sophia began to lose hope. The shark seemed unstoppable, and she was starting to feel exhausted. Her arms were aching from holding onto the rock, and her lungs were burning from lack of air. But then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the shark disappeared into the depths of the river. Sophia and Rachel were left shaking, clinging to the rock as the river waters lapped against them. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with tears and their faces pale with shock. They were both thinking the same thing: what just happened? The shark had come out of nowhere, and now it was gone. But the damage had already been done. Emma was gone, dragged underwater by the shark. And Sophia and Rachel were left to pick up the pieces. As they clung to the rock, Sophia couldn't help but think about Emma. She had been her friend since freshman year, and now she was gone. The thought sent a wave of grief washing over her, and she felt herself start to cry. Rachel reached out and put a hand on her shoulder. "We have to get out of here," she said, her voice shaking with fear. "We have to tell someone what happened." Sophia nodded, knowing that Rachel was right. They had to get help, and fast. They slowly made their way back to shore, their eyes scanning the water for any sign of the shark. But it was gone, vanished into the depths of the river. As they emerged from the water, Sophia and Rachel were met with a sight that made their blood run cold. Emma's body was lying on the shore, her eyes frozen in a permanent stare. Sophia and Rachel both screamed, their voices echoing through the forest as they realized the true horror of what had just happened. Sophia and Rachel were left shaking, clinging to the rock as the river waters lapped against them. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with tears. The shock and horror of what had just happened was etched on their faces. They had made it out alive, but their friends had not been so lucky. Sophia felt a wave of guilt wash over her. Why had she survived when her friends had not? The question echoed in her mind, taunting her with the cruel fate that had been bestowed upon them. Rachel shook her head, as if trying to clear the cobwebs. "We have to get out of here," she said, her voice shaking. Sophia nodded, knowing that Rachel was right. They had to get back to school and tell someone what had happened. As they slowly made their way back to the school campus, Sophia couldn't help but think about her friends. She kept hoping that they would somehow magically appear, alive and well. But deep down, Sophia knew that wasn't going to happen. She had seen the shark attack, had seen her friends being dragged underwater. The images haunted her, playing over and over in her mind like a gruesome movie. Sophia felt a chill run down her spine as she remembered the sound of the shark's jaws snapping shut, the sight of her friends' terrified faces. The question swirled in her mind as they approached the school. They were met with shocked faces and tears, as the news of the tragic incident spread like wildfire. The school was in chaos, with students and teachers milling about, trying to make sense of what had happened. Sophia and Rachel were taken to the hospital, where they were treated for their injuries. Sophia's birthday celebration had turned into a deadly nightmare, one that she would never forget. The hospital room was a blur of beeping machines and sterile smells, but Sophia's mind was elsewhere, reliving the horror of the shark attack. As she lay in the hospital bed, Sophia couldn't help but think about what had happened. She kept replaying the events of the day in her mind, wondering if there was anything she could have done to prevent the tragedy. The guilt and grief threatened to overwhelm her, but Rachel's presence by her side kept her grounded. Rachel was in the bed next to her, her eyes closed as she slept. Sophia reached out and took Rachel's hand, feeling a sense of gratitude towards her friend. They had made it out alive, thanks to Rachel's quick thinking and bravery. Sophia knew that she would never forget what Rachel had done for her. As the days passed, Sophia struggled to come to terms with what had happened. She felt guilty for surviving, and angry at the world for taking her friends away from her. The emotions swirled inside her, a toxic mix of grief and guilt that threatened to consume her. She went through the motions of planning a funeral for her friends, but it all felt so surreal. Sophia couldn't believe that her friends were really gone. The funeral was a blur of tears and mournful faces, but Sophia's mind was elsewhere, stuck in the nightmare of the shark attack. Rachel was by her side every step of the way, offering her support and comfort. Sophia was grateful for her friend's presence, but she couldn't shake the feeling of guilt and responsibility. As the funeral approached, Sophia felt her emotions reaching a boiling point. She was angry, sad, and guilty all at once. She didn't know how she was going to get through the funeral, but she knew she had to be strong for Rachel and the other survivors. The day of the funeral arrived, and Sophia felt like she was in a daze. She went through the motions of the ceremony, but it all felt so unreal. As she stood at the graveside, Sophia felt a sense of finality wash over her. Her friends were really gone, and she would never see them again. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks, and Sophia felt herself breaking down. She sobbed uncontrollably, mourning the loss of her friends. Rachel was by her side, holding her and comforting her as she cried. Sophia knew that she would never forget this moment, this feeling of loss and grief. It was a pain that would stay with her forever, a reminder of the tragedy that had occurred on her birthday. The days that followed the funeral were a blur for Sophia. She went through the motions of school and daily life, but everything felt empty and meaningless. The pain of losing her friends still lingered, and the guilt of surviving the attack weighed heavily on her conscience. The police investigation into the shark attack was ongoing, and Sophia had been questioned multiple times. She had told them everything she knew, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something. The police seemed to be taking the investigation seriously, but Sophia couldn't help but feel that they were missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Rachel had also been questioned, and she had told the police about the shark's unusual behavior. The police had promised to look into it, but Sophia wasn't holding her breath. She knew that the police were doing their best, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were in over their heads. As the investigation continued, Sophia began to feel a sense of frustration. She wanted answers, but no one seemed to be able to provide them. The police were stumped, and the shark's body had been lost at sea, taking any potential clues with it. One day, Sophia decided to take matters into her own hands. She began to research shark attacks, looking for any information that might explain what had happened. She spent hours poring over articles and videos, but nothing seemed to fit. The shark's behavior had been so unusual, so unexplained. Just when Sophia was about to give up, she stumbled upon an article about a similar shark attack that had occurred several years ago. The article mentioned a scientist who had been studying the sharks in the area. Sophia's heart skipped a beat as she read the article. Could this scientist hold the key to understanding what had happened? Sophia quickly tracked down the scientist's contact information and sent him an email. She explained what had happened and asked if he would be willing to meet with her. The scientist, Dr. Jenkins, replied to Sophia's email and agreed to meet with her. Sophia was nervous but excited as she made her way to Dr. Jenkins' office. She had no idea what to expect, but she was determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. Dr. Jenkins' office was located in a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of town. Sophia's heart was racing as she stepped inside. Dr. Jenkins was a kind, older man with a warm smile. He listened intently as Sophia told him about the shark attack and her research. When Sophia finished, Dr. Jenkins nodded thoughtfully. "I think I can help you, Sophia," he said. "But it's not going to be easy." Sophia's heart skipped a beat as she wondered what Dr. Jenkins was going to tell her. Was she ready for the truth? Dr. Jenkins leaned forward, his eyes locked on Sophia's. "The shark that attacked you and your friends was not a normal shark," he said. "It was a genetically modified shark, created by a secret organization." Sophia's eyes widened in shock as she processed Dr. Jenkins' words. A genetically modified shark. It sounded like science fiction. But Dr. Jenkins was serious. "This organization has been experimenting with shark DNA, trying to create a super shark," he explained. "But their experiments have gone horribly wrong." Sophia felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the implications. The shark that had killed her friends was a monster, created by humans. Dr. Jenkins handed Sophia a folder filled with documents and photos. "This is the evidence I've collected," he said. "But we need to be careful. This organization will stop at nothing to keep their secret safe." Sophia took the folder, her heart racing with excitement and fear. She knew that she had stumbled upon something big, something that could change everything. As she left Dr. Jenkins' office, Sophia felt a sense of determination. She was going to expose the truth, no matter what it took. Sophia's mind was reeling as she walked home from Dr. Jenkins' office. She couldn't believe what she had just learned. A genetically modified shark, created by a secret organization. It sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie. But Dr. Jenkins had shown her the evidence, and Sophia knew that she had to take action. She felt a sense of determination wash over her. She couldn't just sit back and do nothing, not when she knew that there were people out there who were willing to kill to keep their secret safe. Sophia's heart was racing as she thought about what she had learned. She knew that she had to be careful, that she couldn't trust anyone. As she walked, Sophia noticed that she was being followed. She quickened her pace, but the person kept pace with her. Sophia's heart was racing as she wondered who it could be. Was it someone from the organization? Had they already found out what she knew? Just as she was starting to get really scared, the person stepped forward and revealed themselves. It was Rachel, Sophia's friend who had survived the shark attack with her. Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her. She was glad to see Rachel, glad to know that she wasn't alone. "Sophia, I've been looking all over for you," Rachel said, out of breath. "I know what you're doing, and I want to help." Sophia was taken aback. How did Rachel know what she was doing? But before she could ask any questions, Rachel took her arm and started pulling her along. "Come on, Sophia. We don't have much time. We have to get out of here before they find us." Sophia's heart was racing as she followed Rachel through the streets. Who were they, and what did they want? Sophia had a feeling that she was in over her head, but she was determined to see things through. As they walked, Rachel explained that she had been doing some research of her own. She had discovered that the organization responsible for creating the genetically modified shark was much bigger and more powerful than they had initially thought. "They're everywhere, Sophia," Rachel said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They have people in the government, in the police department, they're even in our school." Sophia's eyes widened in shock. This was much bigger than she had ever imagined. She felt a sense of fear wash over her, but she pushed it aside. She was determined to expose the truth, no matter what it took. Rachel stopped in front of a small cafe and pushed open the door. "In here," she said, pulling Sophia inside. The cafe was empty, except for a figure sitting in the corner. It was Dr. Jenkins, the scientist who had told Sophia about the genetically modified shark. "Oh, Sophia," Dr. Jenkins said, standing up. "I see you've met Rachel. She's been a big help in our investigation." Sophia's eyes narrowed. What investigation? And what did Dr. Jenkins mean by her? She felt a sense of unease wash over her, but Dr. Jenkins' next words reassured her. "Don't worry, Sophia. We're on the same side. We want to expose the truth about the organization and their genetically modified sharks." Sophia felt a surge of relief. She was glad to have Dr. Jenkins and Rachel on her side. Together, they could do this. They could expose the truth and bring the organization to justice. But as they sat down to discuss their plan, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that they were in over their heads. The organization was powerful, and they would stop at nothing to keep their secrets safe. Sophia, Rachel, and Dr. Jenkins were taking a huge risk by going up against them. But they were determined to expose the truth, no matter what it took. They spent hours discussing their plan, going over every detail. As they talked, Sophia felt a sense of determination wash over her. She was ready to do this. She was ready to take on the organization and expose the truth. Rachel and Dr. Jenkins were with her, and together, they could do anything. They were a team, and they were determined to bring the organization down. But as they left the cafe, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She looked around, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Still, the feeling persisted. She knew that they had to be careful, that they couldn't trust anyone. The organization was everywhere, and they would stop at nothing to keep their secrets safe. Sophia, Rachel, and Dr. Jenkins spent the next few days gathering evidence and building their case against the organization. They worked tirelessly, knowing that they were taking a huge risk by going up against such a powerful enemy. They pored over documents, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed data, determined to expose the truth. But they were determined to expose the truth, no matter what it took. They had lost friends and classmates to the genetically modified shark, and they were not going to let the organization get away with it. Sophia felt a sense of anger and determination burning inside her. She was ready to take on the organization and bring them to justice. Finally, the day of the final confrontation arrived. Sophia, Rachel, and Dr. Jenkins had planned to present their evidence to the school board and the local authorities, in the hopes of bringing the organization to justice. They stood outside the school board meeting room, their hearts racing with anticipation. As they stood outside the school board meeting room, Sophia felt a sense of nervousness wash over her. What if they didn't believe them? What if the organization had too much power and influence? She looked over at Rachel and Dr. Jenkins, who were standing by her side. They were her rock, her support system. Together, they could face anything. But Rachel and Dr. Jenkins were by her side, and together they took a deep breath and stepped inside. The meeting room was filled with school board members, local authorities, and several representatives from the organization. Sophia recognized one of them as the person who had been following her. She felt a surge of fear, but she pushed it aside. She was not going to let them intimidate her. The meeting began, and Sophia, Rachel, and Dr. Jenkins presented their evidence. They showed videos of the shark attack, and Dr. Jenkins explained the science behind the genetically modified shark. The room was silent as the evidence was presented. Sophia could see the shock and horror on the faces of the school board members and the local authorities. But the representatives from the organization just smiled and shook their heads. "This is just a bunch of conspiracy theories," one of them said. "You have no proof that we were involved in the shark attack." Sophia felt a surge of anger. How could they deny it? They had the evidence right in front of them. But then, just as it seemed like the organization was going to get away with it, Dr. Jenkins dropped a bombshell. "We have one more piece of evidence," he said, smiling. "A video that shows the organization's involvement in the shark attack." The room fell silent again as the video was played. Sophia watched in satisfaction as the representatives from the organization turned white with shock and horror. They knew they had been caught, and they knew they were in trouble. The school board members and the local authorities were outraged. "How could you do this?" one of them demanded. "How could you put our children's lives at risk?" The representatives from the organization tried to defend themselves, but it was too late. The evidence was against them, and they knew it. They were caught, and they were going down. Sophia felt a sense of satisfaction and relief wash over her. They had done it. They had exposed the truth and brought the organization to justice. In the end, the organization was shut down, and the people responsible for the shark attack were brought to justice. Sophia, Rachel, and Dr. Jenkins were hailed as heroes. They had exposed the truth and brought justice to the victims of the shark attack. As Sophia looked back on the events of the past few weeks, she felt a sense of pride and satisfaction. She had stood up for what she believed in, even when it was hard. And she had made a difference. The world was a safer place because of her bravery. Sophia smiled, knowing that she would always stand up for what was right, no matter what challenges lay ahead. She had learned a valuable lesson about courage and determination, and she would carry it with her for the rest of her life. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you.